People are saying that the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight last night was rigged. And after making the horrible mistake of actually staying up to watch this garbage, I can actually see why. At the very least, I suspect that there was a wink and a nod backstage between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson that they were not going to try and go the distance. They were not actually going to try and go for the knockout. They were not actually going to try and hurt each other and actually go to war. That was never going to happen in this fight. And if you've made the mistake also like me of watching that garbage last night, you can kind of see that, right? I mean, there were certain moments where both Jake Paul and Mike Tyson could have really pushed it, could have really tried to finish the fight, but that didn't happen. I mean, even at the very end, when Jake Paul put his hands down and bowed to Mike Tyson, if this was an actual fight, if Mike Tyson was actually trying to hurt Jake Paul, that would have been the opportunity to finish the fight. I don't think anybody would have had a problem with this, right? I don't think anybody would have. I think that would have been what people would have been talking about today, not the fact that they saw Mike Tyson's ass during that interview. Because that's the thing. Out of that entire fight, the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight, the one thing that people will remember from this fight is not the fight itself. It's going to be that interview backstage where Mike Tyson walks off and you see his ass, which is sad, really. Which begs the question, what's next for Jake Paul? Because he was on stage at the end of the fight after he won by decision in that snoozefest of a fight. He was calling out Canelo. He said, I want to fight Canelo at 200. And no, bro, I ain't going to hold you. I don't want to see that because Canelo would win 100%. And it's nothing but a downside for Canelo and nothing but an upside for Jake Paul. Because no one is actually expecting Jake Paul to win that fight. But one thing that will happen is Jake Paul will get a bunch of money. And I don't want that. I'm good. I don't want to see that fight. If I could go back and stop myself from watching this, I would have, which is upsetting because I actually was asking people, hey, dude, you should watch the fight. It might be interesting. It wasn't. There was not one moment in the actual fight that's rememberable at all. Like, there's no highlights to this fight. There's a few times that they got hit in the face, but I honestly, here's the thing. I was a little worried about this fight when I saw Mike Tyson slap Jake Paul. That slap. Because if you look closely, his wrist was limp, right? He makes contact with Jake Paul, but his wrist is limp. He's not actually trying to put any force in the slap itself. That's when I'm like, oh, okay, they're probably not going to try and go for the knockout. They're not going to go 100%. This is going to be just like an exhibition. And ultimately, in the long run, I think this does more harm to Jake Paul because it just gives people one more reason as to why not to tune into his fights. His last fight before this one, the guy that subbed in for Mike Tyson, I don't think it did numbers. I don't think people cared. I think the only reason why people watched this fight was because it was Mike Tyson. I just don't see what he does next. If it's not Canelo, which I hope it's not, I hope that Canelo doesn't do that. I think that Canelo should hold out for Conor. I think that's the fight that you make. Both of them are actually legitimate athletes, legitimate stars. That's the fight you want to make. You don't want to make this Jake Paul fight. Nobody, I'm telling you, nobody wants to see this garbage. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you regret watching the Jake Paul fight as much as I do? I regret it, bro. I hate myself for staying up to watch this shit. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Sensational.